Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's virtual conference. My name is Amber Whitmore Alvarez, Chief Innovation Officer of Higher DFMD, and it's a pleasure to be back here with you. For those of you who joined our first CV Clinic live of the morning, thank you for joining us. We will have a second CV Clinic this afternoon at 4 p.m. CET. Now we are about to get started with our personal speakers, careers gurus who will be sharing all the tips and insight for you. So our first speaker of the day, who we also had with us last week, and he'll be joining on a weekly basis, is Will Kintish, the world's renowned guru when it comes to networking. So just a bit of his biography. Will actually practiced as a chartered accountant for over 30 years, ending his accountancy career as a senior partner on merger with a national firm. And now what he does is he shows people in the entrepreneurial, professional, and financial worlds how to become a more effective and confident networker, both online, so important these days, and face-to-face. He's a full-time professional speaker and trainer and is considered a UK leading authority on the vitally important topic of networking. And since the year 2000, he has presented to over 100,000 people in Europe, as he says, but now I tell him globally because I know we have people connected today from all corners of the world. And he's also a published author and of the best-selling book, which is called The Networking Survival Guide. So you will want to check that out on his website, kintish.co.uk. And he was also awarded the Professional Speaking Award of Excellence, which is the highest accolade in the speaking profession. So what he's going to share with us today is the reasons why it's so important to continue networking even during lockdown. And he's going to be asking for your feedback in the chat. So it's meant to be interactive. Please pay attention to that chat functionality. And he'll be asking you about what skills and personal qualities we all need to be top-class networkers. So without any further ado, I'll hand it over to Will.
Well, thank you, Amber. As ever, you say such lovely things about me. So here I am in the networking room. I wish I really was in a networking room. And does anybody know who that guy is? He looks a bit famous, doesn't he? Some of you might think he's Prince Harry. Is he Prince Harry? I'm not going to tell you. So let's start with the basics again. Networking is simply building relationships. And the three key steps to building relationships is know, like, and trust. And to get to know people, we have to go to more events, whether it's in front of the camera or whether it's face-to-face. And what I want you to do now in the chat box is to put down what you believe are the main benefits of being a really good networker. Okay? Off you go in the chat box, please.
There you have it. What benefits are there for you when you become an effective and confident networker? Start sharing those now, please. So will we have strong interpersonal skills, the capacity to create social capital, access to a wider array of opportunities? Keep them coming. You build up connections, easier to be trusted, get hired, foot in the door for career opportunities, know your audience, get updates. It opens up more opportunities in your life. So it's a lot of opportunities. Will have more resources for use and more smart friends to communicate. More opportunities, more resources. Gain more connections for referrals, relationships with a more diverse network. You grow your people capacity, know about more opportunities. Access to information and opportunities not available to everyone, as well as strong communication skills. Very good. Relationships with a more diverse network. gain for more connections for referrals, possibility to learn more from people, get trusted, new job opportunities, know your audience. Perfect. Will, I think we can hand it back to you. This is some pretty good insight.
Well, I think we're all on the right track. But on this slide now, let me just share with you my 12 top thoughts. So, of course, for those of you who are looking for your first job or a new position, the most important benefit of networking is to find yourself that dream job. I believe it has to be the very best way to get to the right employer rather than going through agencies, replying to adverts, going onto job sites. And you've got a few more there, getting people to know you, getting people to know who you are. You've all heard the phrase, I think, it's not what you know, it's who you know. Yes, that's absolutely true, which I've just said, but also it's who knows you. And also the benefits are what you actually do, what expertise and experience you can bring to people. Another great benefit, as you'll see on the slide, is gaining information, finding out what's going on in the marketplace. For those of you who are in work, it's about reinforcing relationships. If you're an accountant, you're a lawyer, a consultant, you're an engineer, then you might meet people who already use your type of services, but you want to find out whether they're happy with their existing advisors, and that's another benefit of going networking. So I hope I can encourage you for the rest of your life to actually go networking. Because you know what? It's just talking to people. Okay, so what skills and personality qualities do we actually need to be that top class networker? Again, in the chat box, please write your thoughts down and I'll come back to you with my thoughts in a second.
Great, thanks, Will, and that's excellent advice. Networking is really simply just talking. So for those of you who are always deterred and overwhelmed by the feeling of doing networking, it's talking. So now in the chat box, what skills and personal qualities do you need to become an effective and confident networker? So start putting those in the chat. We'll get some answers and feedback here for Will. Trustworthy. Communication skills and confidence. Confidence, good communication skills, curious, interested. Interpersonal skills, being extroverted, etiquette, be abreast with information, outgoing, emotional intelligence, being open-minded, know and believe in your abilities, empathy, open-mindedness, friendly, confidence, ability to connect, small talker, patient listener, keep the conversation light, honesty, ability to listen, trustworthy, creativity, responsibility, communication skills, ice-breaking questions, listen clearly, emotional intelligence, real, be real, polite, confident, smart, effective at your job, approachable, curious, interested, willingness to share, storyteller. These are very good. Open mind to new ideas, versatile, respectful, and good listener. Fantastic. Will, we'll hand it back to you.
Great. So at the end of the day, what does it take to be that top class networker? Because of course, you're going to be doing it for the rest of your lives. So let's just go through them. So the first one, in my opinion, is you have to believe in yourself. You have to have good self-belief. Have any of you heard of that syndrome, the imposter syndrome? Well, as far as I'm concerned, if you're a younger person, you're not going to be as experienced, as knowledgeable as old people like me. But as long as you're a nice person, believe in yourself when you walk into that room. The second skill is that you're proud of the work you do. You're proud of the knowledge you've gained over the years. And if you are working, or when you do eventually start to work, be proud of the company that you are going to be representing. The third one is so important. Are you friendly, courteous, and polite to everybody? Because you know, if you're not, people won't like you. And when they don't like you, guess what? They don't have anything to do with you, and they probably won't ever offer you a job. The next one is to be kind, to share, and be generous. Please always remember that. Always be thinking, what's in it for you, not what's in it for me. That is so important. The fifth personality quality for me is to be reliable. Do you remember? Know, like, and trust. Well, when you want people to trust you, you have to be reliable. You always have to follow up on your commitments. Remember that. If you promise to call somebody, or you promise to send somebody the latest report about something, do it, and do it quickly. The next one, the second slide. You have to be persistent. Everybody's very busy. So if you want something, you've been asked to send your resume or your CV in, or if you're in business development, you might have sent a proposal in. I want you to keep following up, but following up in a professional manner. Keep asking permission if you can keep in touch. And if you start to get silence, say to them, look, I'm beginning to think I'm annoying you. Please give me guidance. If you don't want to hear from me anymore, tell me, and I won't bother you any further. Good networkers are patient. It often takes a long time to build relationships. Remember that. It once took me 5 years to start working for a big law firm in the City of London. I found that the reason being they already had a networking trainer in place, but every 6 months I kept in touch, and eventually the trainer retired, and guess what? I worked with them for the next 5 years. Like everything in life, I want you to plan and prepare, whether it's in front of the camera or particularly when we go networking physically. Plan the timings, where it is, what you're going to say. Try and get a guest list. Planning and preparation, absolutely critical. Number 9, asking good questions. I want people to look at you after you've asked a great question and thinking, wow, that was a great question. I've never thought of that. That makes you a really good networker. You know what? When we went to school, we were judged on the quality of our answers. In the world I'm sharing with you, we're judged on the quality of our questions. So when you do ask questions or in any conversation, make sure that you are listening carefully. Listening is really hard. Have you all heard everything I've said? I bet you haven't. I bet your mind's wandered a bit. But where you are in a one-to-one conversation, please listen carefully and nod and respond accordingly. So there we are. I hope you found that useful. I plan to be here every week with a few short tips. I'm now going to hand back to Amber, who will introduce our next 2 speakers, William DeLucy and Mark Vick.
Thank you so much, Will. Fantastic material as always. And now to all of you out there in the audience, I invite you to connect with Will Kintish via LinkedIn. And just as a hint, you will definitely want to personalize that invitation. Sending a non-personalized LinkedIn invitation is no way to start an online relationship these days. And also, I wanted to share that once you connect with Will online, it doesn't just stop there. He starts to send you some very valuable information. So connect with Will Kintish on LinkedIn today. Thanks again, Will. And we look forward to having you back again next week. We'll start each of our weekly virtual conferences with a 10-minute brief session on networking. Super important these days, even during lockdown. Now, I want to welcome our next speaker. We have William DeLucy, who is one of my all-time favorite speakers, and I've had the honor of participating in one of his on-campus workshops, and unforgettable. He is the founder of Amplify Trading. And as an economics student, even before starting on the trading floor, Will was interested in the gap between what was learned in theory and practice, and also the gap between expectations of a job in finance and the reality of a job in finance. And so this is what was the driver behind the creation of Amplify Trading. And now his company trains many of the world's largest investment banks, hedge funds, and asset managers, and develops the technology that help their new hires to be desk ready. So without any further ado, I want to hand it over to Will DeLucy, who will be talking about how to get into that right career in finance for you. Will.
Wonderful. Thank you very much indeed, Amber. I'll just check coming across okay from where I am presenting from. Yeah, really interesting and great to be connected with you. Let me just see my the actual webcam that I'm using here that it's streaming through. One moment. No, okay. Well, I'm going to go through this webcam here. So. Networking is an interesting one. As the speaker before me, Will, was describing, I mean, I first met Amber actually all those years ago at IE in Madrid, and we stayed in contact, because we had a good relationship. So I'm going to share my slides now and talk to you about some of the tips and hints that I can give our candidates in terms of finding the right career in finance for them. So I'm going to give you a practical guide and also talk a little bit about what Amplify does, and hopefully answer some of your questions, because I'm in quite a unique experience here where I get to see hundreds and hundreds of students who are all looking to apply to the right roles and get hired for those roles, and we help give advice and support to help them do so. Before I carry on further, I'm just going to play a quick video to introduce the company and talk a bit about what we do.
Welcome to Amplify. Our innovative technology and deep fundamental market knowledge helps to develop the traders here on our trading floor, as well as some of the most sought-after candidates for investment banks, hedge funds, and asset managers worldwide.
So you can see the setup there of my trading floor in the center of London. How did I end up here, and how did we end up doing what we do? Well, for me, as Amber said, there's a fundamental belief that I have that actually it's very hard to find out what you want to do before you do it. So we generate and create the technology for the financial firms all over the world to make sure they're hiring the right people. Here's some stats specifically for the financial industry to really understand the problem that's faced. So when you look at a bank like Goldman Sachs, for example, they received in 2019 270,000 applications. And I saw some of you asking the question, how do you stand out in that type of networking environment? Well, it's the same challenge for your CV, isn't it? How do you make sure your CV can stand out when there's 270,000 others? 71 students at least apply for every single available graduate role. Now, so you see the problem from the student side, but actually the banks and the asset managers, they have a problem as well, because on the front desk, 40% of those candidates that are hired tend to leave that role within the first 3 years. So there's a big problem in the industry, and that's what I want to address with you now in this lecture, in that how do you know what you want to do before you do it? How do you know that a career in finance is right for you? And how do you know what career in finance might be right for you? These are big questions which I want to try and help you address at the moment. From the institutions, it's a big problem for the industry. It costs them per hire £400,000 over those 3 years. So I don't know, have any of you in this room yet already applied to roles in finance? Have you applied to an investment banking internship or an asset management internship? And have you seen how competitive those roles can be? and struggled in a way to stand out in that application process. It's something that happens a lot and something that we help candidates deal with. It's incredibly competitive, but it all starts at the beginning in terms of how do you know what role is right for you until you've done it? So this is why we exist. So my company, Amplify Trading, founded in 2009, we create the simulation technology that investment banks and asset managers and hedge funds use in their initial training period to help make their candidates desk ready. And this is a real challenge, not just in finance, but in lots of different careers. How do you get training on the job? You know, many people want you to have that experience on your CV. Well, you know, I want to see some relative experience here or related experience, but you can't have it when you're applying to your first role. So our simulations are really there to give candidates their first experience, but also I'm very happy if, so example, this is a student in Nottingham here in the UK using our simulation platform. I'd be quite happy if she didn't enjoy that simulation session, if after spending a day in the role as an investment banker, she said, oh, do you know what, that's not for me. And that's really important because then at least you know what you don't want to do. So many people that I meet, especially here in London, think that they really want to work in banking or they really want to work in asset management, but how do they know until they've tried? And that's the gap we're trying to bridge. Also, I strongly believe that someone's CV doesn't necessarily tell you whether they're going to be effective in the role that you're hiring them for or not. For an example, I was a student at the University of Leeds in the UK, and that wasn't a particularly highly regarded university 20 years ago when I was applying for jobs. And I got a 2-2 in my degree, which is definitely wouldn't allow me to have a finance role now these days. However, why did that happen? A number of personal experiences. I was also having a lot of fun in Leeds. I was networking a lot for sure. But then when I secured my first trading role, I was able to perform incredibly well. So I was very interested in what is it about somebody that means they can perform in a job, because it's not necessarily about where they studied or what they studied. It's not necessarily about their academic results. How else can you find a way to find real market talent rather than the CV and traditional process? So a brief history of the firm. Established in Canary Wharf back in 2009, and here we create apps, we create different types of training technology to help everyone really get their first-hand experience of different roles in finance, and we've expanded globally. We now have offices in Shanghai and in Europe, and we're growing all over the world. So it's been a really interesting journey for me to be part of, having started it all. Khan, just to talk about your question, the career path and finance area, that's definitely what I'm going to be focusing on for the rest of this session. So really looking forward to helping. So how do I start that? Well, let's have a look at the financial industry. Just as an overview, I want to help you guys decide what type of role in finance you're going to be aiming for. So what do you need to know? Well, first of all, you need to know that there's two sides of the financial industry. You have the buy side and the sell side. So on the buy side, we have financial institutions who are looking to, if you like, invest their funds. They're looking to make money out of money. These are companies like hedge funds, asset managers, pension funds, and private equity companies. Okay, so companies on the buy side, these are firms in the financial industry who want to use their money, invest their money to make a return. So for example, some of you or most of you probably have an iPhone. Now, if you insure that iPhone, you pay your $5 a month to the insurance company. They don't just sit on that money, they invest that money. So when you lose your phone and they have to pay you out or buy you a new one, they've still made money on the money that you've given them. Okay, so these are buy side companies. What sits on the sell side? I'll talk about the investors in a moment. On the sell side, these are companies that sell the buy side services. Okay. So a financial industry can be split into two, buy side and sell side. The sell side, this is where you have companies that sell the services to the buy side, okay? Now, when you look at a city like London, the sell side, all of the banks tend to be in a place called Canary Wharf, that's in the east of the city, and the hedge funds are in Mayfair or on the west of the city, or New York. You have most of the sell side institutions in Midtown, for example, and the buy-side institutions in places like Greenwich Village. There tends to be a geographical split, but it's really important for you guys to realize that working on the sell side as an investment bank or a broker or in research, for example, you're selling a service for the buy side. Now, the buy side, they're buying that service in order to invest the investors' funds and give the investors a return. Okay, so sell side and buy side. And this is how the industry comes together. One speaks to another, which speaks to another. Okay, the two types of companies both rely on each other. So sell side, they're talking and dealing with stocks and credit. Buy side, they're giving return back to their investors. So let's have a quick look inside an investment bank. What actually happens inside an investment bank? What sort of roles exist and why do they exist? So inside the investment banking division, this is when people say I want to be an investment banker, very often they mean the investment banking division. I don't know if anyone here is studying corporate finance, for example, or is interested in accounting. This is where in the investment bank you might work, okay? The investment banking division provides a service to companies to help those companies access the cash from different buy-side firms. So you might have heard, did everyone see the news about Snowflake IPO? Did anyone hear about that? A new technology company called Snowflake launched onto the stock exchange in something called an IPO. Now, it's an investment bank that would have helped the company do that and raise billions and billions of dollars for the company. So if you're going to work in the investment banking division, this is more about deals. I don't know if you guys have heard of things like mergers and acquisitions, for example, initial public offerings. The investment banking division helps companies get access to money, okay? So the cash from the fund managers, and may then help the companies sell their shares to those investing in them. So can you see here how the investment bank is providing a service? Imagine if you're buying a house, you're the buyer. So there's the house, there's the buyer. The estate agent operates in the middle. They're selling a service, linking the two. It's exactly the same for the investment bank. It's just using more complex financial products. Okay, it's things like shares or corporate bonds, all things that happen in what we call the primary market. So that's the investment banking division, okay? On the other side of the investment bank, we've got sales and trading. So I've just covered the investment banking division where we talk about corporate finance, mergers and acquisitions, capital markets, debt capital markets, okay? This is more deal focused. This is very focused on corporate finance. On the other side of the investment bank, you've got the sales and trading arm. This is what they call global markets. Now, in sales and trading, this is what you imagine seeing in an investment bank trading floor. This is doing deals and facilitating flow every minute of every day. It's very, very fast paced, and you're dealing with clients all of the time, speaking to clients and seeing what access to markets they want. So for the investment banking division, they're looking for access to money. You're helping your clients get access to money, okay? For the investment bank sales and trading arm, you're helping your clients get access to markets. Now, does anybody know? Type it in the chat. Let me see. What type of personality traits, for example, do you think? What type of person do you think would perform particularly well as a sales trader? What type of person might perform particularly well as a sales trader? What sort of personality traits should they have? What sort of person would make a lot of money and do well in their career in this role, in a sales trading role for an investment bank? What sort of skills do you think they might have? Yeah, you're saying workaholic, Musab. It's very interesting. Yes, you're not wrong. Workaholic, certainly. Thinking on their feet. Salesman's approach. Yeah, I mean, I think the main focus here, if you want to be a sales trader for JP Morgan or Goldman Sachs, obviously you have to be quite intelligent. You have to know your markets. But most importantly, you need to be a natural networker, very much what Will was talking about in the session before I joined. So a sales trader, if you're going to go for a sales trader role, you need to be somebody that really enjoys speaking with people. You need to be able to work fast under pressure, but you also need to be able to get people to like you. And I know it sounds quite strange, I know it's not exactly something you can put on your CV, but really a good sales trader is someone that's very likable. Why is that? Well, that's because the client has lots of different sales traders they can speak to, lots of different banks that they can call. But the reason why they would call you is because you have a good relationship with them, you've been reliable, you haven't let them down, they can depend on you. So that really will help the bank perform and you perform well in the role. So sales trading, prime brokerage, natural communicators, okay? Here, you're speaking to the client every single day and saying, hi, how are you doing? Wasn't it your daughter's birthday yesterday? I hope she had a good time. What's happening this weekend? Listen, this is what the ECB is saying tomorrow. Interest rates are going to move lower. How can I help you with your trade? Okay, that sort of personal relationship is very important. So if that doesn't come naturally to you, you don't have to go for that role, okay? So, for example, someone like me, I quite like this role. I quite like people, and I like speaking to people every day, so I'm quite happy here. However, my business partner, who I founded Amplify Trading with, he was much more on this side. He was much more of a market maker, okay? He doesn't particularly like social situations. He feels quite uncomfortable speaking to strangers, for example, but he's incredibly analytical, very, very intelligent, and really good with focused thought, okay? So focused concentration. And that's what really helps for a market making role. So if you're going to go into market making for an investment bank, you need to be great with numbers, certainly fast with numbers, but also very fast, very analytical, very disciplined, not necessarily good with people. So in an investment bank, the sales trader and the market maker have very different types of personalities, but they come together to provide the service of the investment bank sales and trading arm. Does that make sense? So this is why I'm so interested in helping students experience these different roles and receive data on their performance in those different roles so they know what type of role to apply for. Okay, so that's on the sales and trading side. Now on the investment banking division side, really you need to have a corporate finance background, as I said, accountancy, for example. But this is where sales and trading is very fast-paced. The investment banking division deals tend to take weeks, if not months. So again, it depends what type of person you are. If you're not particularly patient and you like immediate gratification and immediate responses, then working in the sales and trading division would really suit you, okay? If you like a fast-paced working environment, if you like to think on your feet, if you like to go, then working in sales and trading is definitely for you. If you prefer more project-type work, analytical, research style of work, then actually the investment banking division is going to be really interesting for you. So for example, someone that took our simulation recently is an equity research analyst for Goldman Sachs. And last year he worked on the initial public offering of Aston Martin. So him and his team went to Aston Martin, which is a famous car in the UK, went to their offices and they tried to think about how much is this company worth. And then they produced a huge report for the valuation of the firm before the company went onto the IPO. And does anyone know what happened to Aston Martin's share price after it went onto the stock market? Well, it went onto the stock market at £18 a share. It now trades at 50 pence. So not hugely successful IPO story there, but just quite interesting. So do you understand how in the sales and trading side, we've got two types of personalities, and on the investment banking side, again, it's a different type of personality, okay? And then when you go on the sales trading floor, you can see how it all comes together. This is one of the most important things, and it's not just with banks, it's with any type of companies, trying to understand who is in what type of role, why are they in that role, and then how do they communicate with the other people in order for the whole organization to survive. And I think this is really interesting. If you're to look at potential companies that you're applying for, try to think about the structure of the firm, who reports to who, and how do different people work together. So that's the sell side. Now I'm going to talk to you about the buy side. So has anyone heard of asset management and wealth management? This is another huge area of the financial industry. And remember, this is called the buy side because they buy the services that the sell side has to offer. So you have the investors, Okay, these are high net worth individuals. This might be a sovereign wealth fund in Norway, for example. They've got a lot of money and they distribute their money to asset managers, hedge funds, private equity companies, or more and more popular now, venture capital firms. When you look inside an asset manager firm, you've got a fund manager, research analyst, execution trader, but you also have that's in the front office. You also have a huge amount of middle office in terms of sales and distribution, because remember, the buy side companies, they're still selling a service to the investors, aren't they? They're selling a service to the investors. So what's interesting about thinking about your career going forward is, really everybody's trying to sell something. Okay, everybody's trying to sell something at the end of the day, and it's really important to get that sort of ingrained in you as the purpose of the business. So they are selling their fund to the investors, and then their clients are high net worths, pension funds, charities. They inject cash into the asset management company, and then they trade in the markets to be able to increase their assets under management. So how do they do that? Well, let's say if you're an execution trader, you might be trading in different types of assets, for example, equities, commodities, fixed income, FX. This is what we call the secondary market, okay, once the company has gone onto the stock exchange, for example. And when they're very popular, you can trade on exchanges, so the London Stock Exchange or the New York Stock Exchange. But when products aren't very popular, let's say this is Argentine government debt, or this is an insurance product that's not very popular, then you might have to go through a broker or an investment bank. And that's where you go back to the investment bank sales and trading floor. So do you see what's interesting about the financial industry is how all the institutions come together and the different roles. Some of the roles are selling a service, some of the roles are buying a service from each other, but everybody has a client and everybody's working for a purpose. The type of role that you take within that financial institution should really reflect your innate skills, where is your performance going to meet your potential? And that's why I want to share with you somewhere where you can get the experience. We are offering a free simulation event for everybody in this lesson. So as you know, I covered before, we run these simulation events for the graduate training programs for Citigroup, Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, Credit Suisse, Bank of America. Actually, we have one with Bank of America tomorrow. But you name it, we help them train their graduates to get them desk ready, okay? My big idea and the big passion, we're launching a new company called Amplify Me, related to Amplify Trading, where we want every student that's interested in finance to get the same practical experience we deliver to the world's investment banks absolutely for free. Why do I want to do this? Well, first of all, we've got relationships with people like Credit Suisse and Morgan Stanley, whereby the best performer in our simulations, no matter what their background and no matter where they study, we can get them fast-tracked directly for internships in 2021. At the moment, banks are super keen on diversity, and that doesn't just mean ethnicity, but it also means social diversity, diversity of universities, diversity of subjects studied. So the more people that can take our sponsored free simulation events, I'm really interested in finding out who's the next person that's the real diamond in the rough, who's made to work in markets. Doesn't matter what they studied or where they are, I'm interested in finding out them and seeing if I can really create their future in finance. So please do have a look at this link. You have access to the slides, but through this link, you'd be able to apply and join the revolution, the Amplify Me revolution. So have a look at that link. I'll just put it in the room just so you've got it, and everybody here would be welcome to register for that simulation. So receive analyst level training for free, find your path in finance, and get hired. It's going to be a really, really good event, and everybody's welcome to attend. Just to answer some more questions here, Pallavi, you say, is it important to work on the sell side before transitioning to the buy side? That's a really important question, actually. That's the normal route. So for example, you won't find many people, let's say, moving from a hedge fund into an investment bank. Often it's more common for an investment bank graduate program to develop a market maker who, through their position and their roles, they make relationships in the buy side of the industry. and then they move to the buy side. The other thing about the buy side is they tend not to, certainly for hedge funds, they tend not to run large graduate programs. But definitely you can find great roles and graduate roles in companies like Schroders, M&G Investments, Rothschilds, for example, Investec. You've got large buy-side firms who are all there available. LNG Investments, all available and have large graduate roles. Okay, so don't feel like you can't just go into the buy side. It tends to be more in the asset management side rather than the hedge fund side that you can enter as a graduate. We've had a lot of our trainees go to BlackRock, for example. So if on that website you have a look at the reviews, you'll see 6 or 7 candidates there who, after taking our simulation, have been hired by BlackRock, and they're a really interesting outfit to work for too. So you can go directly into the buy side for sure. It's just that the sell side tend to run larger graduate programs. My pleasure, Pallavi. Geeta, can I speak about private equity? Yes, of course. Private equity here in London is on a rampage. And in fact, I've spent most of last year speaking to private equity companies myself because they're interested in buying some of my company, Amplify Trading. Private equity is seen as the new fashionable area to get involved in, especially for those involved in corporate finance. Again, one of the issues with private equity is they tend to be quite small companies, quite small houses, so don't run the large graduate programs, but you can definitely find opportunities available. So for example, here in the UK, just in the last few weeks, I've been speaking to people like the Foresight Group, BGC Investments, for example, large private equity companies very interested in students with a strong corporate finance background. Again, what can be quite common is to go into, for example, IBD, the investment banking division, to grow your skills, to get some experience under your belt before then moving into a private equity firm. So Will, you're asking, do I have relationships with companies on the buy side? Absolutely, we do. So as I mentioned, BlackRock, for example, you can see many of our candidates referred to after the simulation. It tends to be a simulation better known on the sell side, I would say, Will, to be fair. Is it appropriate for those on MBA courses? Yeah, absolutely. In fact, in November, we're running it for Cambridge Judge Business School for their MBA students. So very popular for MBA as well. I mean, really the main thing about the simulation exercise is to give everybody the chance to actually do it, to actually do the role and find out if it's for you or not. Okay, Rishabhi, can I talk about the importance of CFA for someone who wants to break into the finance industry? Look, CFA is like the gold standard of accreditation. It's a great thing to achieve because everybody knows how hard it is to achieve. I would say opinion is changing somewhat. Look, for the asset management industry, the CFA can really help. They want to know that you know your rules and regs. They want to know that you've got the basics that you get from CFA level 1 and level 2, for sure. In reality, very often for a grad role, the CFA is a nice to have. It's not going to make you necessarily good at your job. But what it does show an employer is that you're super keen to get into this area. You're really keen to get in this industry. You've put yourself through that study in order to achieve it. But ultimately, the CFA won't necessarily mean you're a good hire or not, but it does show that you've got the right attitude to get further. So Amy, you're saying, coming from an economics background, how did I prepare for a career in finance? Well, actually, I'd say studying economics and studying the way that markets should work lends itself quite well to working within a career in finance anyway. And I would say normally a lot of the financial firms are looking for candidates that would have that type of background. I'm saying normally because actually in the last 2 years, it's really changed. What we're getting strong demand from our clients is they want to hire people who haven't studied business or finance or economics. Now, you might find this strange. Why would Morgan Stanley want to hire someone that knows nothing about finance? Well, the truth is, it's not particularly hard to learn. Okay, the type of financial knowledge that you're going to need to know in order to perform in your role at a graduate level isn't rocket science, and it can be taught. What our banks are looking for is diversity of thought. So if you don't come from an economics background, that's okay too. You should not apply. You should still apply. Okay, the banks want diversity of thought. So yes, they get a predominant economics and business and finance applications for sure, But if you come from a different background, it's still absolutely fine to apply. Yes, Bav, someone with a biological background, that's fine. In fact, if you have a look at the reviews on our page, we've had someone go from biology to BlackRock just recently, which was really interesting. Yes, so Chaitanya, international business is quite generalist. What would be really great, and especially on your CV, if you can focus on a specific area. So either, is that a master's, Chaitanya, or undergraduate? Let's say if it was an undergraduate, then you could look to do further study in a specialist area, for example. But actually, the way I would put it on your CV is, look, I've been studying international business, but with a specific focus on how COVID has interrupted international trade, for example. The reason why I'd have that on your CV is then for me, as an interviewer, I would find something interesting to talk about. I'd want to know what you thought about that. What did you conclude? So if you studied a more generalist course, I would definitely follow it up with a bullet point or two on something specific that's really going to get that interviewer interested. Okay, so hopefully you'll book your simulation. Here's just some examples of the candidates that we work for. So Morgan Stanley, we fast track people, Amplify Me candidates directly with the bank, and they both receive full-time roles now. BlackRock's a big hit, there's Aksha, and we also work with some of the world's largest academic institutions as well. So it's been a great story for so far. We work with companies across Asia and the West, and we've been going for 11 years. And you know, it's been a fantastic journey for me to be involved this far. I'm really proud of what we do. I know everybody personally. So this is Elliot. He now works at the Bank of England, for example. We get to know all of our trainees very well, and I'd be happy to have you on our sponsored simulation, of course. So that's it from me. Thank you very much. Please do connect with me on LinkedIn if you find me. It's William DeLucy. Alternatively, if you found the session interesting, do give me an email. But hopefully I'll see you on that free simulation event where you can actually experience what it's like inside an investment bank trading floor or an asset management firm and find out if a future in finance is right for you. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much, Will. That was fantastic. We do have some time, so we have some more questions coming in the chat. Are you happy to take them? How are you doing?
Very happy to take them.
Yeah?
I just want to apologize. I've got a really posh camera on my computer here, but it's going through my laptop camera, which is...
No worries. No problem.
Yeah, my
pleasure,
guys. So yeah, please put your questions through, because I absolutely understand how hard it is to get noticed, to stand out, to make an impact. But fundamentally, what I believe will be core to your future success is knowing what type of role will you perform in well, okay? So for example, I'll tell you about me. I'm impatient, I've got no attention to detail, I tend to make silly mistakes, but I love people and I love working and I like working hard. So for me, going into an analyst role or a research role, there'd be no point, because I could work really, really hard and I wouldn't really get where I needed to get to. You know, it would take me a lot more work compared to somebody that's much more analytical than me. Okay. However, for someone that isn't such a people person, for example, they would find it harder to build a business in the way I have. So it all depends. Sally, your question. My internship experiences are not that focused. How should I demonstrate this properly to the interviewer or future employer? Okay. The way I would do this, Sally, is depending on who you're applying to, try and do two things. First of all, see if you can tailor it slightly to the person that you're applying to. So for example, let's say if you were applying to someone in an accountancy role, and one of your experiences was, I don't know, working in H&M or working in a shop, you could refer to just one bullet point saying maintain cash flow and balance of the institution. Do you know what I mean? Something along those lines. So you tailor that one bullet point. The other one, Sally, is use the internship experiences to show character in you. Have that theme constantly coming through. So if the role that you're applying for does require you to work under extreme pressure, for example, then continue to refer to that in each of your internship experiences. I hope that helps, Sally. Thomas, how beneficial would previous experience in accounting be for when finance positions? Extremely relevant, Thomas, especially in the investment banking division side, as I explained, or the private equity side. So absolutely, really, really. But I think what would really stand out, Thomas, if you can show what you did with that accountancy skill. So one step further, don't just, for example, say accountancy. What did you use that accountancy knowledge to achieve? You could say, for example, I was able to show the price earnings ratio of technology stocks compared to financials post-COVID were overvalued, and therefore was able to make a recommendation of X. Does that make sense? You need to show something real on that. Ivan, what have we got? Is it useful quantitative finance for investment banking? So quant finance, I would say, is more useful for markets, if you're going into a markets role or you're applying to someone like Citadel. But quantitative finance is definitely attractive, Ivan, super attractive. So I would say a couple of things to really make you stand out, something like quantitative finance for sure, but also if you've got any type of experience in programming, something like Java, even if you've just taught yourself, Java, sorry, that's not 1990, Will, something like Python, even if you've just taught yourself, that's fine. Rodrigo, someone with 10 years experience in the energy sector, do you think is a profile for attractive roles? Definitely, but you'd probably want to, Rodrigo, you'd want to apply for, let's say, off-cycle. I was actually speaking to a student today who I was helping with his application, and this was Morgan Stanley off-cycle application in investment management. Okay, so that's an off-cycle position in investment management, something along those lines would definitely be attractive still for a finance role, Rodrigo. Adam, I'm unsure whether to apply for a grad scheme or a master's. How much value would a master's add to my application? Look, Adam, in my opinion, if you can get the grad scheme, go for it. Right? If the grad scheme doesn't come through, book the master's in. Simple as that. Dennis, would you suggest a master's degree if you want to pursue a career in finance? Well, I think it depends. Look, if you're an undergraduate and you're in your first year or your second year and you're your undergraduate and you manage to secure the internship and then you manage to secure a graduate role after that, then you might not need to do a master's. But a master's can be really helpful if you haven't yet been able to make that competitive edge. Konstantin, what does a typical day of an analyst in an asset management look like? So yeah, you might be working on a particular project over a number of days, Konstantin. So for example, you might be working on a piece of research where you have to value energy stocks, okay? And you need to value energy stocks because the portfolio manager is looking at rebalancing his or her portfolio into the energy sector. So the typical day would be definitely a lot of corporate finance, a lot of research, a lot of analysis, putting together a deck, putting together a pitch and a proposal based on your research. Hope that helps. Great questions. Tithanka, I'm more like the research type. Which role should you suggest? So definitely something like an equity research analyst, for example. Trithanka, equity research analyst, you could work, for example, then looking at valuations of stocks. You can take your time over the project, and that's definitely needed in a lot of companies, certainly. Esther, would someone from a design and construction client-side background be able to transition into this role? Well, obviously you're client-facing. So if you're client-facing and you're good with client management and client relationships, then the sales trading role would certainly help. You would need to show why you're moving from that area into banking. So for example, you could say, you could even talk about this session that you've had, you know, after the event here, I've been able to really rekindle my interest in finance. So that's the type of CV I'd say that might benefit from a small profile intro. Luke, is it possible to sell a PhD in chemical engineering for finance? To move from chemical engineering into finance, I think you mean? Yes, definitely. Luke, you'd be highly attractive. The banks we're working with are really interested with very clever people who don't necessarily come from a finance background. So if you're coming from a chemical engineering background, straight away at the top of your CV, that would be super attractive, and you could go into markets or IBD. Remember, the reality is in these roles, if you're the type of candidate that can really learn and show a PhD in chemical engineering, you're showing there that you can learn and you're incredibly smart. Everything can be taught. And that's why they run these long training programs, which is what we help them do, right? My job at Amplify, all over the summer, I was working with Morgan Stanley in New York. Their candidates were logging in to Amplify, to our simulations, because they had candidates from non-finance backgrounds that we were helping. Okay, thank you very much, everyone, for your questions. Musab, why do 40% of people leave within 3 years? I'm just going to finish on that one because it's super important. There's a few reasons, Musab, and these are the reasons why my firm exists. Reason number one, a lot of people enter into a role that they don't really know what it is yet. Okay, they haven't experienced the reality of working in that role, so they can be disappointed with that reality, number one. Number two, a lot of the banks tend to hire the most elite candidates. So they're only hiring here in the UK from Imperial, Oxford, Cambridge, LSE. They're only hiring the super elite, which means therefore, number three, once that candidate has a bad experience in that role, they can move to other institutions very easily because they're super attractive to all of those who are looking at the top tier business schools in the world. You know, if you're Yale, maths, head of the maths club, you can move if you have a bad month at work. My ambition is to try and find genuine talent from outside Oxford and Cambridge who can still perform in the role and are more likely to be sticky for the firm. Okay, thanks very much, Amber. I hope that helped, guys.
That was fantastic, Will. Yeah, I can't think of a better foundation for them for the finance fairs, which kick off today with the preparation day, and then tomorrow and Thursday is when they'll be interacting live, chatting with the recruiters. So this has just been phenomenal. Thank you so much. And on behalf of our audience, thank you.
My pleasure.
Lots of great comments coming in. Thank you, Will.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Okay, everyone. Now what we'll be doing is we will be watching several of those elevator pitches that you have been submitting for our Pitch Perfect Challenge. So just as a reminder, if you will log into your Get Hired Global School platform, and you will see there in the virtual fair section the guidelines for the Pitch Perfect Challenge. You'll want to submit it by recording that on your mobile phone horizontally, a 1-minute duration maximum. It can be less than that. Be creative and let your personality shine through. And you can submit those to us on a weekly basis because each week we are selecting finalists. At the end of the next speaker session, we'll continue to watch these finalist pitches, and we will vote, all of us here in the audience today, online in the poll for our favorite pitch from the pre-selected shortlisted finalists that we have. And the winner, as a reminder, gets a full career advising session, including a CV review, cover letter review, and LinkedIn summary review. So we're looking forward to seeing your pitches. And what we're also doing is sharing those pitches in the form of a video pitch book with our recruiters. And we also shared it last time. Some of the press got a hold of that and featured several of our students and alumni in the press, which was fantastic visibility. So if you're interested in having your voice heard in front of the recruiters that are looking for you, please do submit those. So I'm going to hand it over right now, and we're going to take a look at some of these pitches in just a moment.
Hi, I'm Lucas Preiter. I'm a 23-year-old business student from the University of Edinburgh. The last 3 years, although I'm from Germany, I studied in France, the US and Singapore. This experience has made me realize that I'm a great responsible person. As the president of the GBBA Association, I strive to lead by example. As teams, we are collecting funds for socially responsible causes. But also in my professional career, I'm holding strategic positions with a lot of responsibility. In a small wealth management firm, I'm currently developing business plans for medical M&A deals. But in a previous internship at an asset management firm in Germany, I was given a $15,000 budget to manage a software acquisition, which I successfully did. In the end, I would love to be a strategic consultant and pursuing this career effectively. I'm a mountain bike enthusiast and I love cars. What else can I say?
Hello, my name is Flora Batts. I'm currently pursuing my Strategic Marketing Master at Imperial College. I did my undergrad in Business Administration in Germany and then came to the UK to work in investment banking for 2 years at Goldman Sachs. It was a very driven and fast-paced environment, and I got to know very great minds and skills. But as I'm also a very creative person, I wanted to combine this highly analytical environment with marketing master, which is a bit more creative, outgoing. And I hope I can leverage in those areas and combine those two very, very interesting fields. And hope to see you soon. Get in contact, and all the best.
Yesterday is not for us to recover, but the future is there for us to win. Hello everyone, I am Rohit Bansal, student of Postgraduate Diploma in Management Marketing at Birla Institute of Management Technology. For me, learning is the key takeaway in every position. I aim to add value to your organization and make your team feel proud. I did my graduation in Zoology Honours from Ramjas College, University of Delhi with a CGPA of 9.027. I was a part of the virtual summer learning program at Marsh India Insurance Brokers Private Limited. My project focused on standardization, repository creation and feasibility study on the premium installment options for corporate clients. I am proficient in Excel to advanced level with intermediate knowledge of SPSS and in-depth knowledge of market research. I am currently serving as executive member of the CSR Conduit and a class representative at BIMTech. I received the Best Research Assistant title at the International Sustainability Standards Conference 2019 by Center for Responsible Business. I also received District Governor's recognition as the Best Zonal Interact Representative for the Rotary International 3010. I have been into theatre, painting as well as social work from my childhood, participated in various events and received appreciation for the same. I would love to connect with you and your organization.
Fantastic. I want to thank our pitches. We had Lucas from EDEC in France. We had Flora from Imperial in the UK and Rohit from BIMTech in India. Thank you for sharing with us, the audience, the recruiters. They love to see those pitches, so keep them coming. Now, I'm going to turn it over. We're going to go into our next session, our next speaker, and then after our next speaker, we will see the 4 finalist pitches, and then we will all vote for those. So our next speaker today is Mark Fritz. He will be doing a session on leading yourself in times of change. I met Mark years ago. We were both teaching together on the same program at Brown University in the United States, and I've kept in contact. I follow him closely in social media. He has fantastic tips. If any of you want to follow his Instagram account, for example, highly recommend it. And he is a leadership speaker, a mentor, and a professor. He has spoken on leadership and the power of ownership in over 50 countries around the globe. He is the author of The Truth About Getting Things Done and Lead and Influence, Get More Ownership, Commitment, and Achievement from Your Team, The Truth About Getting Things Done. And he's a mentor to executives across the world. Mark has taught in business schools across Europe, and he is adjunct faculty for Headspring Executive Development. He has lived and worked in the United States, Singapore, Egypt, Netherlands, Italy, Japan, and the UK, and he now calls London his home, along with his Japanese wife. Welcome to Mark Fritz.
My name is Daniela Calle. I am Colombian and I am doing a Master in Strategic Management at the IAE Business School. I have experience working in education and massive consumption, and in my last experience I was a leader of the most important business line in which I organize and control all the commercial activities in order to make new deals and to maintain an excellent service with our customers. When I get my degree, I want to work in marketing, focus on consumer behavior in order to solve unpredictable problems, create new ideas, and continue making a critical thinking. I have a motto in life that consists in learning new things, so I am a proactive student who is always investigating and learning new things. Because of this, I made different courses in neuromarketing, soft skills, and languages such as English.
Hello everyone, my name is Isaac. I'm a postgrad student at the University of Southampton, and this is my CV. I have a bachelor's degree in computer science with 3 years of experience in e-commerce and digital content creation. I'm currently studying for a master's degree in marketing analytics at the University of Southampton in the UK. Some of my technical skills include mobile app development, search engine optimization, and video content production. Also, I'm very proud to say that thanks to my previous work, I was able to participate in a very interesting project, which was also awarded with a Guinness World Record. Finally, my goal here is to keep developing my technical and marketing skills in the near future. That's why I'm looking for a role in digital marketing. Well, thanks for watching. Hopefully you find this video useful, and remember, stay safe. Bye.
Hi, just one question. Have you thought about combining finance with data science? I do all the time. My name is Daniel Morales. I have a master's degree in finance and I work for a bank in Mexico. Look, I'm not an expert on data science, but I love finance. And doing finance in LATAM region for 8 years has taught me there is an incredible value in this combination. I coordinated projects in which by applying data analytics, we enhanced the reporting analysis, FP&A, controlling, data visualization, finance modeling, all of that. Doing this in Latin America has been a little tough, but I really enjoy it. Now, I'm looking to move overseas to find intellectual challenges like this. Let me know if I can create value for you. I'm really hoping.
Okay, we should have Mark. Mark, are you here in the room?
Here I am.
Very good. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. I already shared your full bio and then we lost you momentarily, but you're back, so I won't waste any more time. I've introduced you with your bio in full. I explained how we met years ago back at Brown University teaching on the same program and how I follow you closely in the social media and your great Instagram posts, so encourage them to follow you there. So I will hand it over to you and I'll remind our audience that any questions as Mark is going through his presentation, please feel free to share in the chat and either he will be monitoring or I'll be monitoring as well, and we'll put up those questions for him to answer. So thank you, and I'll hand it over to Mark.
Sounds good. Thank you, Amber. It's a pleasure to be here with everybody. Just want to share a few ideas with you about leading yourself in times of change. As you think about it now with the COVID virus and how we're trying to all deal with that all across the world, it's driven lots of changes in the way we work, in the way we live, and all the things in between. Okay, so just a few ideas wanted to share. I might ask you a few questions on the chat function as well. But I want to start off with just sharing you what the experts that really understand change and look at it from both personal, organizational change and everything. And they really said it all comes down to how we answer two questions as to whether we really, really change and we handle changes and change with what the environment is doing. First is it worth it? Is it worth it? Is it, the why, the reward, is it worth it to us? And the second one is, can I do it? It's really the confidence that we have in those things. And when I found a lot of times, when I was leading organizations and people changing, it's those two questions that you need to help people to answer in their mind. It's worth it, and they have the confidence to do it. Because if it's worth it, you get the energy to make it happen. If you have the confidence, you take action on that energy and you go make those things happen. So here's a tip for you guys is to think about for yourself. Ask yourself, the reward, the why behind what you're doing. Is it worth it? And you'll get more fuel for what you want to accomplish at any change. And the second one is, can I do it? The confidence. And if you're leading people, it's so important to keep their confidence high, because confident people take a lot more action. and they move forward faster on things that way. And as we said before, the why is the fuel. So keep in mind those two things as you think through the changes and so forth. Now, one thing I wanted to share with you, and it's really, really key, is I studied leadership from all different aspects. And when you listen to all the gurus, and you listen to people who talk about, being successful in organizations, climbing through your career and everything, there's three key things that you really need to deal with in order to climb. And there's three key things you really need to deal with if you're going to manage yourself through change. The first one is ambiguity. We need to be comfortable, much more comfortable with ambiguity, and to figure out, the path through it in order to create enough clarity for ourselves to take action. And if you're leading people, it's creating enough clarity so that they can take action too, even though things aren't totally clear, and it never is. So as you climb in your career, and as you go into bigger and bigger changes and so forth, there's more and more ambiguity. And in fact, in this type of environment, there's no perfect answer to problems. There's only options. And the option that you have this week might not be the option you have next week. So you really do need to keep forward, and looking forward what you want to accomplish and getting enough clarity so that you can take action that day and that week and that month and so forth. And you want to help your people do the same. So they say we rise to the level of ambiguity we can handle. The second one that you really want to be thinking about too is being able to handle dilemmas. Now, dilemmas is an interesting thing. It's easy when you have a problem, you can solve it. But a dilemma is not like a problem. It's something you can't solve right away. It's something that you have to continually manage. COVID-19 is that. You can't say I'm going to solve the problem of this week. It's be solved and I don't have to worry about it the rest of the year. It's a dilemma that you continually have to manage, and there has to be decisions made all along the way to manage that. If you think about it for yourself, or think about it in organizations and working in organizations, it's so important, for you to think about alignment as a dilemma. You have perfect alignment, you get aligned with someone, it doesn't stay that way forever, so you have to constantly manage that along the way. So what I found with, if you really want to climb, as you climb higher and higher, you're less problem solving, right? You're hiring your people to solve problems. You're more at managing the dilemmas that keep things clear for them, that keeps people taking action, and so forth. So continually sort of managing the virus now for each of the countries. It's managing all different things, and it's a series of decisions managing these dilemmas that enable them to move forward. And so you really have to think about how you do that and get comfortable knowing that there's no perfect answer, or there's no problem that you can actually solve. It's something that you continually manage. And as you climb higher, you're going to be more managing dilemmas than solving problems. And the third area here, the third thing that you really need to be able to deal with is conflict. Because as you rise, the conflict gets more difficult to handle. And conflict in one way too is positive, because conflict means there's energy. If someone isn't arguing a point with you and they're just accepting things, they might not agree with you. They just don't have any energy on the topic. And they say that we climb to the level of conflict we can handle. And so one leadership guru said an interesting thing that I always remember now. He says, conflict is something you can't take the elevator. You can't be good at handling conflict at this level and jump to handling conflict at that level the next day. It's something you need to take the stairs. So you need to continually learn how to deal with these things as you go. And if you're leading people, one tip I would say for you guys is expose some of your people to some of the organizational conflict along the way. Because one of the things I hear from very first-time supervisors all the time, they get their first-time management job and they go, wow, I didn't understand all this mess was here in the politics. So help your people along the way to deal with that. And for yourself, don't look at conflict as, oh, this is a big problem, I don't want to handle this. Look at it as an opportunity for you to grow and to be able to handle that and take on more in the future as well. So think for yourself now, and you know, think through yourself. How well do you handle ambiguity? You know, can you think it through to find some clarity for yourself to take action and to help your people take action? Are you good at understanding what's the difference between a dilemma and a problem, and understand that this is something that you're going to have to continually manage, these dilemmas, and you're going to have to be making sort of decisions proactively to make things move forward. And in change, you have a lot more dilemmas, and every times when you delay making a decision to delay, it hurts your progress in what you're trying to do. And the third one is conflict, as I said. So being able to handle conflict, being able to embrace it. And one of the biggest things for you guys to think about is you have to face the difficult conversations. Because whenever you avoid a difficult conversation, it's not like wine where it gets good with time and everything. It gets harder to fix. And in fact, when you avoid difficult conversations, it actually, the more you delay it, the fewer options you have in dealing with it when you finally, decide to deal with it. So keep in mind that if you think about all these three, and you really think about what can you do that for yourself, it's about taking 100% responsibility for your life. In other words, don't look for bosses or other people to get things clear for you all the time. Figure out for yourself, how can you make it clear enough for yourself to take action? Be proactive in managing dilemmas and that way, and be proactive in terms of managing conflict. It's about taking that 100% responsibility. Now, an interesting thing I'll share with you is that there's a Hawaiian philosophy called Ho'oponopono. It's a funny name, but it's really, the philosophy is about taking 100% responsibility. Whatever shows up in my life is my responsibility. I might have triggered it. And the guru, he since passed away, but one of the gurus of this philosophy, he mentioned an interesting thing. He said, have you ever noticed when you have a problem, you are always there? So no matter what, in anything we deal with, we are always part of the solution, or we're part of managing any dilemma that we're in the middle of. Okay, so be proactive, get comfortable with ambiguity, get comfortable with managing dilemmas and making the decisions, get comfortable with the conflict you handle, and you'll just keep climbing, okay? In other words, we climb to the level we can handle those three, and so we should constantly challenge ourselves to keep moving on those things, okay? Now, the next thing is, whenever you're managing anything in terms of yourself, the most important thing you always have to manage is your focus. Because whenever your focus is not clear, you're not taking as much action on where you need to go. And focus is a matter of subtraction. It's not a matter of addition. Because if you think about it, if you're creative, you're always thinking of new things you can do. And here's what I found, and I realized this, to be honest, to this degree, only in the past 7 years or so. I left the corporate world about 15 years ago, and I've been doing my own things, coaching and so forth. But I worked with some really brilliant leaders over the last 6-7 years, and I found that the most successful people have the ability to choose between great and good. Okay, everybody has the ability to choose between good and bad. Yeah, it's obvious. I don't want to do the bad, I do the good. But if you're going to be really focused, especially in times of change, and you want to get through the change quicker, you've got to put more of your energy, more of the resources around you on the great versus the good. There's never enough time to do all the good, right? And so sometimes if you're a leader, you have to stop some projects or some good things in order to put the right resources on the great. Okay, so what I would say is that get comfortable with the difficult decision of dropping some good in order to focus on the great, because it's the great which creates the future faster. There's a funny story, there's a sculptor's assistant bringing in a big block of marble into the sculpture's studio, and it's very dirty, dusty, disfigured, ugly. And he says to the sculptor, "What are you going to make out of this marble? Because it just looks ugly to me. I can't imagine you making something beautiful." So the sculptor walks all around the marble and looks at it from all angles and says, "I see a magnificent stallion, a horse, flowing mane, flared nostrils, very muscular horse." And he says, "Yeah, but how are you going to make that horse?" He says, "I'm going to take my chisel and I'm going to take my hammer, and I'm going to chip away and chip away and chip away everything that's not a horse. And what's left over will be a masterpiece." So think about this for yourself. In times of change or in any other time, think about chipping away what should not be in your focus in order for you to be a masterpiece, or for you to really create the future you want faster, either for you or also for your team or your organization. So what I found is that we need to be strong on the three things I just mentioned before and handling those: ambiguity, dilemmas, and conflict. But we have to be really, really strong on managing our focus. And we got to keep our focus in there and really go. So let me ask you a quick question via the chat function. Please come back via the chat. What percentage of what you do every single day, your daily behaviors and everything, daily, week behavior, what percentage do you think is driven by your conscious mind? Okay. Anybody, just type into the chat function. What do you think? What percentage is driven by your conscious mind? Trying to see, I don't see any. Some there coming through, 30%, 10%, 50%. Would you believe, guys, it's between 2 and 4%. Between 2 and 4% is driven consciously. The rest is subconsciously. Okay? So keep in mind this, I'll prove it to you one question. Can you tell me your next thought? Probably not, right? It just pops in. So the thing is, what's driving you is really your subconscious mind. When you're super clear on your focus, you're going to see more opportunities to make those things happen. So one of the most important things you need to do in times of change or any other times of change, any other time, is to be clear on your focus. Okay. And I'll give you a couple reasons on this one too. Think about it. If you have children, think about back when you were pregnant or your partner was pregnant with the first child. And think back, did you suddenly see more baby buggies as you walk around the city? Now, you didn't consciously, say to your partner at breakfast with coffee and say, "Honey, let's go look for baby buggies today." No, you didn't, because it was a dominant thought with lots of emotion. You're thinking about it all the time, so your brain pointed it out. It's the same way when you buy a new car. You buy a new car, you're happy for about a week. Then you start to see your car everywhere, same model, same color. And you say, "Damn it, I thought I had a unique car. No, I just have one like everybody else." So keep in mind this: whatever becomes your dominant thought, you will see more of. So if you have a very, very clear focus about what you want to accomplish, and you're communicating with others about that clear focus, you're going to see more ways to make it happen, and other people are going to see more ways to make it happen too. Okay? So keep in mind that 96 to 98% of what you do each day is driven by your subconscious mind. And if you think about it, where are your habits? Your habits are in your subconscious mind. So keep in mind this. So if you ever want to go forward, you really need to think about being as clear as possible and always analyzing and thinking, what are the habits that's going to enable me to stay clear? because if you work on those habits to stay clear, you're going to take more action on those things. Okay? So next area to think about here is you have to understand yourself in a high self-awareness, because in times of change, it's going to be stressful. And, handling you and managing your emotions about the change are going to be super, super important. So if you're constantly up and down in your emotions, or you're constantly changing your focus from one thing to another because you don't really clear about how you're going to make yourself through this change, you're not going to be consistent in your behaviors. And when you're not consistent in your behaviors, it raises a question mark in other people. And when there's a question mark in other people, they're definitely not going to follow you as closely, and they have a question about how you're going to act. That's why a lot of times you report to a manager who's up and down all the time. You're going to the assistant in the morning. How's the boss today? Is it a good day to talk to the boss? And sometimes, some bosses, I need to get to them before 11 o'clock or the stresses start building the day and they're going to react. So what's most important for you is for you to understand you. Okay. In other words, you're going to have the ability to adapt better. You're going to have the ability to control your emotions better, and you're going to have more influence with others. So what I found is the more you understand you and the deeper you understand you, the stronger you can be at adapting to others. It's kind of like the foundation for your influence that way. Okay. So keep in mind that in terms of you understanding you. Now, the biggest ways for you to understand you is you're going to need feedback. Okay. Some people don't ask for feedback because they don't want to hear the negative. Well, if you don't want to hear the negative, you can't fix what you don't know. So what I've seen in very successful people is they're strong enough to always take feedback. And here's another interesting thing. Even in the most destructive feedback, the things that you just don't agree with at all, sometimes we do something that has triggered that in someone else too. So, always remember, think about this. We want to take 100% of responsibility for our life. And so think about how our behaviors are impacting others. And especially in times of change, how we react and how we control our emotions and how we remain calm helps others to remain calm during this as well. So I found in how would you say, in handling change, in influencing or leading people, the most important thing you can do is to remain calm and not act surprised. The only time you want to act surprised is when you're in a negotiation and you're really shocked at the figure someone else is giving you. So what I found is people who understand themselves are more calm about things and they're be more consistent in their behaviors. Now, if you have feedback and you don't reflect on it and you don't know how you're going to use it, it's not useful to you. It's like having a lot of knowledge, but if you're not using your knowledge, you're not moving forward. You're not being successful. I always say, if knowledge was the important thing to be successful, the librarians would be the most successful people. So you need the reflection. And a great thing here, there's a great definition of reflection. Reflection is the opportunity to give yourself advice. So think about it. Whenever you're reflecting, you're seeing how you can give yourself advice and improving your actions as you go. And then the last thing I want to point out here is think about this in differences. When you meet people that are different than you and think different than you, it challenges you to say, well, why do I think this way? Okay. So, always keep in mind that, during the week, you should always seek out people that are different than you or work. It's really a benefit to work with people different because they're constantly helping you to adapt and grow. Then the weekend, be with your friends, be with family and everything that feels comfortable, but challenge yourself during the week. There was one consultant who said something which I thought was really insightful. He said, my goal in life is to constantly meet people who disturb my view of the world, right? So if you're meeting people who disturb your view, They're challenging you to say, why do you think this way? And understand this is that in our lives, we grew up with certain thinking and certain mindsets, and sometimes we picked it up from parents, sometimes we picked it up from others as we were growing up, and we have an assumption, we have an opinion, we have a belief this way, but we don't know why we believe this. Now, I'll tell you a quick funny story. I lived in different countries around the world. The second country I lived in was Egypt. And, I apologize up front. I'm going to say a bad word, but it's part of the story. But, the accounting manager comes in on a Sunday and says, I was watching TV this weekend, and can you explain this American expression I heard in the movie? And the American expression was, the shit is going to hit the fan. Now, as an American, and I never visualized that. I never really thought about it. I just learned as a teenager, that's bad. Okay, so there's some things that you've learned that you make decisions on, or that's part of your mindset, your behaviors and so forth, but you haven't ever thought about why until you meet people who think different than you. Okay, so the best thing you could have in your life a lot of times is to be part of diverse teams where you're constantly challenged to think why you think that way. And that means that every day is a growing day for you that way. Okay, so as I remind you here, invest time in you understanding you. The stronger you understand yourself, the more influence you're going to have. The stronger you understand yourself, others will not they won't be able to manipulate you as well as if you don't understand yourself. Because there's two ways that people try to manipulate you. You not understanding yourself, and they go after sort of insecurities, or you just don't know the psychology of influence. But that the second one you also have to work on. So ask for feedback whenever you can. Invest in reflection time at least each week. And embrace the differences in others, and don't shy away from teams with different people on it, because they're the most successful teams, and it's the times when you really learn. Okay. Now, the next thing I wanted to share with you is what I found in everybody who is making the most of any change is they're always leveraging their strengths. And it's interesting because sometimes when I ask groups, I say, well, let me ask you guys, what do you think is more important to work on for you to keep growing and climbing? Is it growing your strengths or working on your weaknesses? Which do you think is more important, strengths or weaknesses? Just type into the chat. Let's see what people say. Trying to see how people come through here. See some strengths, weakness. Think about this. There's a study a while ago, I don't know, more than 10 years ago, with and they studied in the Gallup organization the most successful leaders, and the most successful leaders focused on their strengths, not their weaknesses. Think about this. Your strengths drive your success. Your weaknesses only slow your success. So if you're only working on your weaknesses, you're only working on the thing that slows it. You need to be leveraging your strengths. And when you're leveraging your strengths, you're always more confident. You're always going to make a big difference. And so what you always have to think about all the time is, how can you leverage your strengths? How can you grow your strengths even stronger? Now, there's two sets of weaknesses. There's some weaknesses that slow the use of your strengths. And generally, those are in your influencing skills. And there's other weaknesses that have no connection to your strengths. In other words, like, I know accounting and everything, but I don't need to know the details of accounting because I'm an accountant who does my books. So I don't need to grow that weakness of accounting skills because I don't need it. It does not help me leverage my strengths more. I can surround myself with people that way. So the thing is, when you know your strengths and you know your key weaknesses, For everything else on those weaknesses, you surround yourself with people who have strengths in those weaknesses. And you can see it in the leadership teams. The most unsuccessful leadership team is the leader hired everybody that looks just like them. But if they did that, they've grown all the strengths, and they also, grown all the weaknesses too at the same time. So let me share with you one key thing. And I want you to think about this, is that, the top CEO coach in the world, Marshall Goldsmith, says every successful CEO has the same two weaknesses. And I think every successful person has the same two weaknesses too. Okay. You don't listen. Okay. And the first one is don't listen. Think about this. When someone doesn't listen to you, how do you feel? You don't feel valued. You feel frustrated and everything. So listening is a way of engaging others. And the second one is, Marshall Goldsmith says it this way, but you add too much value. In other words, you try to give people too many of the answers. You try to influence them with the logic, and you don't get them talking and so forth. So what I found is that you can be really good at something. You can have a strong strength. But if people don't want to work with you, or people don't want to listen to you, you can't leverage that strength to make a big impact. So I found that the two key skills in terms of engaging others are the two key weaknesses that we all have to keep working on in order to magnify it. Okay? So think about this. You need to listen more, and you need to engage people to talk more and not give as many answers, but ask questions so that they can find the answers on themselves. One top salesperson, I used to travel a lot. I used to go to various subsidiaries of the company I worked with. And I used to ask the general manager before I showed up, who are your superstars? So I asked one of the general managers, what his superstar was, and it was one salesperson. I took him out for a beer. And I asked him some questions about, how he was successful. And he says, I owe all my success to one phrase. He said, if the customer or prospect is talking, I'm winning. They're influencing themselves. So think about this. Always keep a focus on your strengths. Keep growing them, because that's where you make an impact. And keep working on those key weaknesses, your influencing skills, that enable other people to want to engage with you, and you can move forward. Okay. So that's an absolute key. Now, the other thing I want to mention, there's two more things I want to mention, and I reserve some time for some questions as we can go through then, is you've got to keep yourself at a level where you can do your best all the time. And let me, think about this. Could you ever use stress as an excuse? Yeah, I don't think so, right? Stress is within our control. It's up to us how we handle and manage that stress and so forth. So you can't always say, well, I did this because of stress and so forth. So let's take an example here, and this chart is really highlighting what I'm going to do in this glass. Think about this glass, and think about where are successful leaders' stress levels. So think about for yourself, where are successful leaders' stress levels? Is it halfway? Is it all the way up the top, etc.? And what I found is this: is that the most successful people, stress levels are really around 2/3, 3/4 often. Because they're really driven people, so they put stress on themselves to keep improving, go after their potential. And then because they're trying to create a big impact, the people they deal with often will give them stress. But they're never really at the top. Think about it. If you're always at the top of your stress, and one small drop, someone says something that you just don't like, and you get mad, and you could lose a relationship, and it might take you a few months to get that back. Or you could be getting frustrated and upset at the worst time with all these people around, and you lose some credibility too. So what I found is as your stress builds, you need to put things in your life that bring the stress down. And what I found with very successful people is they'll put things in their life like some sports or meditation or out with friends, etc. And so if they put that in and they block time off for this each week, stress never reaches the top where it overflows. And so, you don't have to think about work-life balance because you can't balance work and life. You can only integrate the different parts of your life so that you're always at your best. And I found that the most successful people that are managing change are managing their stress, and they're investing the right time for recovery. And think of it this, recovery is kind of like a mind vacation. Think about it. When you're playing sports, for the guys, you're playing football or you're playing tennis, you're not thinking. You're just doing everything by instinct that way. So you're giving your mind a vacation. When you're meditating, for sure you're not thinking, right? Because you're not supposed to think when you meditate. So you're giving yourself a mind vacation. Just a quick, where this idea of recovery comes from. It actually comes from the sports world. I don't know if you ever noticed, if you watch tennis on TV and you watch a tennis match and you watch the 15, 20 seconds between points, have you ever noticed that tennis players are playing with the racket the same way, they pull their shirt the same way, they do different things? Over 25 years ago, the tennis players, not all of them had a ritual. Now they all have a ritual. But they put a number one player years ago with a ritual, and they put the number 100th player or 200th player who didn't have a ritual, and they had them play a tennis match. And they put a heart monitor on each person to determine how many beats their heart was going. And it turned out the person with the ritual had less heartbeats per that 15 seconds than the other one. In other words, that person was relaxing. And what they found is that people with rituals, it sends a signal to the body that this is normal, nothing exciting. So if they had a set point or just a regular point, physically they felt more the same because a ritual puts you more in this is just a normal day. So to give you a tip, if you times of heavy stress, times of change, keep things in your daily or weekly type of activities, rituals, and it sends a signal to your body that even though you're experiencing all this stress and change, you're going to be able to handle it in a much more normal way because it says, hey, this is more normal. So keep in mind that, and keep in mind, invest in your, quote, mind vacations. And sometimes a mind vacation could be just 5 minutes listening to your favorite song. But that will break the pattern. It will break the stress building. I used to coach an architect who was leading an architect firm in London. He often would get stressed. He would go outside, walk around the block, and come back in again. It was just enough to stop the stress from building. And think about that. So what are your recovery, and how would you really handle that? In terms of, your own recovery, and how would you make that a habit in terms of daily or weekly, and forcing yourself, make time for it. No matter how busy you are, you need to invest in these rituals that will keep you, normal in terms of this feels normal. And also it gives your mind a vacation, because when you stop thinking consciously, it uses more of your subconscious mind to creatively make things happen. Okay. So if you really want to calm yourself, or you really want to set your day off right and go to sleep right, the biggest thing is to clear your mind before going to bed consciously, because the 2 times where your subconscious mind is most receptive is when right before you go to bed and when you wake up in the morning. So that's where you get the most focus with that. So I'll give you a tip. Don't check your email the first thing you get up in the morning. Or if you do, quick check it, put it away, focus on the things you need to come back and answer, because that's when you're most engaging your subconscious mind and the ideas. That's why when you fall asleep, a clear mind, you wake up with the solution often that way. Now, the last thing, and then I'll open up for questions as well, is if I were to ask you, and you didn't see this slide, and if I were to ask you, once you know what you want to achieve, you know why you want to achieve it, and you know by when you want to achieve it, what's your next thought? And when I ask groups this, over half the room says how. But if you really want to be successful, success is a team sport, you should be thinking who. Because if you're thinking how by yourself, you're limited by your own knowledge and experiences. Therefore, your solution is limited. Okay? And so, the more you engage others in something, the more ideas you get, the faster you get a good solution. I don't know if you've been into an executive's office and they're discussing a problem and they say, call such and such in, call such and such in. They want as much brain power on it as they can right away. And the second reason is if you take the how halfway and then you try to get others involved, they're trying to working on your ideas, not their ideas. So you should engage others as fast as possible so that they feel it's theirs when they're going to move forward that way. Then the third reason to get a who involved is the faster you get a who involved, the faster you can get rid of it. Okay. So just for you guys that are leaders, this idea of this was built based on an email I got from my client. My client I was coaching a client who had a Europe, Africa, Middle Eastern responsibility. He had a huge problem. His first instinct was to call his best person in and tell him how to fix it. But he heard my voice in his head. So he called his best person in and he asked that person to come back with 2 or 3 options the next day and see how we can fix this. They had a discussion the next day and the person went in and fixed it totally. And he said, as a leader, he said, and the subject line of the email he sent was this. He said, my how is who. He said, as a leader, my how is not how. I'm paying my people for the how. My how is who. My how is if you think about the times of change, my how is getting the right who's involved, making them feel it's worth it, the why behind it, giving them the confidence and making it happen. If we pull what I discussed in the first slide to here. So keep in mind this, success is a team sport. The faster you get the who's around you involved, the faster you move things forward. And that means that if you think back to our slide about the strengths and weaknesses, the more you grow your influencing skills, the more you grow your impact with everybody. Because if you think about the impact that only you can do, you're limited by your own 24 hours and what you can do. When you think about the influence you can have on others, your impact will multiply. So hopefully you guys picked up some ideas about leading yourselves this way. Some key reminders here, and a couple things for you is when you can download, I think they'll give you a link to these materials. There'll be some reminders that you can reference there as you go. Just for, some of the ideas in a more creative way, there's going to be in the download, there'll be an illustration, which is from a talk I did on leading yourself, which has some of the ideas I discussed in here. And that could be a good reference for you. And also I'm going to leave with you some core leadership skills and some behaviors that I found in very good leaders based on my coaching. In fact, I coached global executive MBA students at the IE Business School for 8 years, 4 informally and 4 formally, and with my other coaching, and I came up with these 3 key things. The most successful people and leaders can lead themselves well, they can influence others, and they can drive change. Okay? So if you think about if they can do all 3 of those well, they can handle 3 things well. They can handle ambiguity, they can handle dilemmas, and they can handle conflict. And then the last thing to share, if you'd like, there's my contact details. If you'd like the link and so forth, I put various things out on LinkedIn as well. And if you'd like to have some tips for the next 4 to 6 weeks. I create WhatsApp groups after I do talks and so forth. And if you'd like to have some tips, just send me your mobile number, either on SMS or WhatsApp or via email. And I'll send you a few tips over the next 4 to 6 weeks in terms of taking some of these things and really taking action on them. So open it up for any questions in the remaining time, and if let's see if there's anything I can help you with.
That was absolutely fantastic, Mark. Thank you. I especially like the one at chipping away at what should not be in focus to become one's masterpiece. Great story. And I'll put it in the words here of Zayad, who said, brilliant. It was a brilliant presentation with such effective stories in there for everyone. So thank you. We do have some questions. I want to go back to one from Esosa. Must you always manage a conflict even when it has no connection with you as a leader?
I think if a conflict is impacting some teamwork, or if a conflict is impacting some influence that goes outside of your organization, then you want to deal with it. If a conflict is not slowing things down, it's not slowing teamwork and other things, and if you find it too, it's based on some personalities that it's something that you're not going to be able to uncover. Again, you come back to those priorities, right? It's probably a good thing to do to resolve it, but probably not the most important. Yeah.
Very good. Thank you. We have a question from Chandra Roxanne, who says, how can we identify our true strengths?
I mean, the true strengths are something that, it's kind of, I have difficulty looking at strengths without also looking at passion, right? Because you can be very good at something, but if you don't have a passion to use it or grow it, you're not going to have impact. So I found the sweet spot often is the intersection of strengths and passion. And what you'll find is your strength when you're dealing with a very difficult problem that day, and you leave the office with more energy than when you started. Because you're working in something that you're strong at. Because when you're strong at something, nothing phases you in working with it. It's when you're weak at something that you get stressed and everything else. So I found that a good exercise is to think about what are the things you were working on when you left the office with more energy than when you started. And it's usually the intersection between your passion and your strengths.
Very good. I just want to remind everyone that Mark's presentation is available for download in the files section, as is our previous session on finance. And you also have in the offer section, you're able to connect directly to Mark via LinkedIn. There, we have another question. Is it a good idea to go for a startup, given the situations prevailing?
Oh, absolutely. When you have a startup, you're going to learn so much, right? So, even if it doesn't work out and you go for it, you'll be learning 10 times faster than someone goes into a very standard corporate type of role. I remember back when I started my career, I went into a large corporation and into the IT organization. They had two groups, or they had one group I went into, and I thought I was going to be in that. Went for training for 5 months. And then you go into the domestic side of the business. And I went into, luckily, they picked me out of all the 670 people that were in the training at that time to go into this other group, which was 2 months, into a separate type of technology supporting internationally. And so I was thrown into crazy things from day one, and I found that I learned much quicker than the people who were in much more safer environments.
Fantastic. And I just want to thank you again, Mark, for your kind offer. Everyone, take a look at here what he's saying. To keep the learning alive long enough to create new habits, sign up for his daily WhatsApp reminders. It's great to continue with this momentum. I think we're good with the questions, Mark. I just want to thank you once again for being part of our virtual fair series. This is such a fantastic foundation for them as future leaders and as current leaders as well. And as they now go on to the next 2 days will be the recruiting days. They'll be interacting one-on-one with those recruiters in hopes of achieving their career aspirations all over the globe. So thank you once again, Mark Fritz. It's been a pleasure having you.
Thank you very much, and I wish everyone a fantastic remainder of your year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So now, everyone, what we're going to do is take a moment. We are going to watch the 4 finalist shortlisted elevator pitches that you've been submitting. And then everybody, please stay on the line. We will be voting. We will share a poll and we will vote for the winner, who will have the full career session, career advising, career counseling, coaching, whatever you want to call it, which includes the CV review, LinkedIn review, and cover letter review. So we are going to hand it over now and we will take a look at our 4 finalists that we will be voting on.
My name is Daniela Calle, I am Colombian and I am doing a Master in Strategic Management at the IAE Business School. I have experience working in education and massive consumption, and in my last experience I was a leader of the most important business line in which I organize and control all the commercial activities in order to make new deals and to maintain an excellent service with our customers. When I get my degree, I want to work in marketing, focus on consumer behavior in order to solve unpredictable problems, create new ideas, and continue making a critical thinking. I have a motto in life that consists in learning new things, so I am a proactive student who is always investigating and learning new things. Because of this, I made different courses in neuromarketing, soft skills, and languages such as English.
Hello everyone, my name is Isaac. I'm a postgrad student at the University of Southampton, and this is my CV. I have a bachelor's degree in computer science with 3 years of experience in e-commerce and digital content creation. I'm currently studying for a master's degree in marketing analytics at the University of Southampton in the UK. Some of my technical skills include mobile app development, search engine optimization, and video content production. Also, I'm very proud to say that thanks to my previous work, I was able to participate in a very interesting project, which was also awarded with a Guinness World Record. Finally, my goal here is to keep developing my technical and marketing skills in the near future. That's why I'm looking for a role in digital marketing. So I can. Well, thanks for watching. Hopefully you find this video useful, and remember, stay safe. Bye.
Hi, just one question. Have you thought about combining finance with data science? I do all the time. My name is Daniel Morales. I have a master's degree in finance and I work for a bank in Mexico. Look, I'm not an expert on data science, but I love finance. And doing finance in LATAM region for 8 years has taught me there is an incredible value in this combination. I coordinated projects in which by applying data analytics, we enhance the reporting analysis, FP&A, controlling, data visualization, finance modeling, all of that. Doing this in Latin America has been a little tough, but I really enjoy it. Now, I'm looking to move overseas to find intellectual challenges like this. Let me know if I can create value for you. I'm really hoping we can do something together.
Do you see that little land in the west coast of Europe called Portugal? Well, a girl was born there. Hello, my name is Joana Formigal and I'm currently starting my Master in Finance at the IAE Business School in Barcelona. I got a bachelor degree in Economics in the Faculty of Economics at the University of Oporto. Last year, I started my career in a Portuguese multinational company, Sona Araco, where I got the opportunity to analyzing product margins, managing orders, work with a lot of people from different countries as a product manager job. I speak fluently 3 languages, English, French, and Portuguese, and I also have basic skills of Spanish. My greatest passion is to travel in every way. In my free time, I also usually practice sports, and in these days I'm addicted to paddle. I'm a person who gives the most in everything, and I don't have any problem from moving to country from country if it is what it demands to be better, to learn more. After being graduated, I aspire to join a multinational company where I can contribute with all my understanding.
Excellent. So thank you, Daniela, Victor, Danielle, and Joanna. We will give it just another minute. If you have not yet voted, please take a moment in the poll to vote, and we will announce the winner in just about a minute. And I'm watching the results, and they're very close. Okay, we will end the poll in just a few seconds. Okay, my colleagues will be ending the poll, and we will be sharing the result in just a moment. Please bear with us. Okay, and it is live now. We have a winner. It's Victor Hugo Garcia. So many congratulations, Victor. It will be a pleasure to work with you and do a full career advising session, CV review, cover letter review, and LinkedIn profile review. And for those of you, and I want to, again, sincere congratulations to very close rivals, Daniela, Danielle, and Joanna, for submitting your pitches, which made it to the 4 finalists out of the very large volume of pitches that we received to this competition. So you're more than welcome, even our finalists who did not make it as a winner this week, you're more than welcome to continue submitting each week, and you will have a chance. We have, after this week, 6 more weeks of our virtual fairs. So please do continue submitting on a weekly basis to our Pitch Perfect competition, and we will be voting each week. So once again, sincere congratulations to Victor Hugo, and looking forward to working with you. And this finalizes the virtual conference component of Today Preparation Day, but it's not the last activity of the day. We will be back at 4 p.m. CET with another CV optimization clinic conducted by myself and our guest CV reviewer, Maria Maragianis, who is the Director of Careers and Alumni at Alba Graduate Business School in Greece. So we look forward to seeing you there. What we do at the beginning of that session is announce that you're able to submit your CVs once the session starts to webcast@hire.global. And on a first come, first serve basis, we select those and we feature those here on the screen and do a live review in front of the audience. So thank you for joining this virtual conference. And once again, I want to thank Will Kintish, William DeLucy, and Mark Fritz for the fantastic presentations. Thank you all for joining, and looking forward to seeing you at the CV Clinic this afternoon. And if not, very important that you're active both tomorrow and on Thursday at the recruiting days, interacting and engaging one-on-one and asking questions to the recruiters who will be there live and are looking to meet you. Thank you.